I do not watch trailers. For someone who's, hasn't made a profession out of reviewing movies, but definitely a hobby, not a vocation, but, along those lines. I assiduously avoid watching trailers. I'm going to illustrate this with points as to why, chief among which is that trailers now, the way that sort of that Hollywood marketing machine has devised a means to market, to sell its movies, it completely does a disservice to the product itself, to that final product, to that film that you pay for to go to the cinema and watch. All of these trailers, teasers, Super Bowl spots, 4th of July releases, Thanksgiving this, BTS's making of, so on and so forth. All of these do such a disservice to the movie because now, I get it, a trailer is meant to whet the appetite. A trailer is meant to be that amuse-bouche, that sort of thing to get you in to the cinema, because that is, of course, the intention at the end of the day, to watch the final product. As, for example, here on YouTube, where you're joining us on The Last Picture Show, you have reels, and the reels sort of feed into the main video. So, in an effect, that's what a trailer does. But when you're overdoing it as they are doing it now, I think it then becomes a point of oversaturation. And half the times, because the movie tends to be so shit in many examples, you get to see all of the best bits in the trailer, and you can just skip to whenever the film is released online, or sort of on sort of a DVD release, or sort of online for streaming and stuff like that. So you don't even have to bother going to the cinema to watch it. So recently we had the trailer release for Project Hail Mary. It's an adaptation of Andy Weir's latest book, following, of course, his adaptation of The Martian, which is a stellar movie, literally. And in this case, we have Ryan Gosling and in the lead, and it's directed by Phil Lord, the guys who did the Lego Movie and those ones. Now, the trailer itself is solid enough, and the reason I'm bringing it up is apparently in the past, week or 2 weeks, however long it's been out, it's almost racked up I think 400 million views in a day or two or something like that. But that's not why I'm bringing it up. The trailer, of course, is meant sort of as sort of its very function. The trailer is meant to sort of hint or indicate, or at least give an outline of the plot. And that's what this trailer does. Ryan Gosling, and I'm not giving anything away. And the reason why I even watched this trailer, by the way, because again, I did start this off by saying I don't watch trailers, but the reason why I even started off by saying this was I've read the book. It's a hoot. I love it. And because I've read the book, I don't think there were going to be any surprises in this trailer or anything like that, so I thought might as well. Ryan Gosling's a high school teacher or something like that, a disgraced scientist. He's apparently brought into the fold because there's sort of this universe-threatening sort of thing that's going on, and he seems to be apparently the only one that can, stop it from happening. Great. You've got a zinger or two. I put the knot in astronaut, so on, and all of that stuff, like quips. Cool. Based off of that alone, I think that would be enough to get people into cinemas, But no. At the end, or at least towards the end of this trailer, you see Ryan Gosling's spacecraft having a very close encounter of the third kind. And it goes a step further. It introduces us to a paw print, a paw print of an alien character, or an alien. For those of you who've read the book, you know that sort of this particular character, Rocky, plays a substantial role in the book, and he's quite endearing. Again, based off of that alone, the first half of this trailer at least, or at least sort of 75% of it, again, I would have felt that would have been enough to, get me into the cinema to watch this movie. I'm a sucker for sci-fi. But then they have this big reveal. Why would you want to have that in this movie? Because you can't assume everyone's read the book, right? Why give away one of its potential biggest reveals? That's now where I'm coming to this point that trailers are perhaps over-serving the audience now. And if we go back a couple of years, and I never thought that this person would be capable of such a gaffe, but here we are. Tom Cruise and Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. Now, considering what he did in Fallout, considering what he did in Maverick, I mean, it was almost, not a given. Well, yeah, of course it was a given that he was going to deliver even more in his next Mission Impossible movie. And the stunt, the set piece that they had set up, that they had devised for Dead Reckoning, was one for the ages. It was a fantastic stunt. All the more so because, again, he was doing it himself. It was, of course, the one where he's on a dirt bike and he base jumps off, if this is considered a base jump, I don't know, off of the motorcycle and parachute and all of that stuff. A fantastic stunt. Watching it in the cinema, unfortunately, was underwhelming. Why? Why was it underwhelming? It was underwhelming because prior to the release of this movie, there were so many making-ofs. There were so many behind the scenes of this particular stunt. There were so many bits of it in the trailer itself that by the time you actually got to watching it in the cinema, you couldn't care less, or at least I couldn't care less. Because the thing is, I had practically seen everything that needed to be seen. And again, I tried my best to avoid it, but it was so hard. I mean, you even had the poster of it, of what's it called, he's in the air, the motorcycle somewhere like that. And it's of course a really nice poster itself. But I mean, why are you giving away your best hand? Why do that? And again, I mean, I would have kept that under wraps, sworn everyone to secrecy, had the Tom Cruise level of fit that he had when they were recording during COVID. That this is one thing that we are not going to get out in any of the marketing. We're not going to have any of the cast or crew speak about it, so that when audiences do come to the cinema and the scene, the build-up to it, because there's a lot of build-up in the movie itself, they're actually going to be wowed. I wasn't. For a stunt like that, for the caliber of that stunt, unfortunately, in the cinema, I was like, okay, right. I had to watch that stupid making of. I think he made the same mistake with what's it called, Final Reckoning as well. A lot of the set pieces were given away. Perhaps not the submarine one, which I thought was the strongest, but there you were. I think, okay, now I'm going to go to what perhaps is not necessarily the antithesis, but I think we're going to build up to that, like Tom Cruise did with this stunt. If you all remember Rogue One, if you remember the trailer from that movie, half of what you see, or maybe less than half, of what you see in that trailer doesn't actually end up in the movie. And that is a good thing. It's a good thing because, if you had watched the trailer, you're like, oh, okay, when is this scene coming? When is that scene going to come? And then having seen that movie and the gestalt of it in your brain, you start, trying to make sense of it all. You're like, okay, this is how the story goes. But that's not how the story went at all, number one. Number two, Vader's reveal, which I am so grateful to, God, that they did not put in the trailer itself. Vader's reveal in that movie was a godsend again. I'm invoking the Almighty on this. But that was a fantastic, one of the best moments of the Star Wars of the past, 10, 15 years of the new Star Wars. Rogue One is still is the best Star Wars movie, I have to say. Star Star Wars movie of the latter half, of the new ones, the new crop, not the originals. But imagine having them put that in the trailer itself. Would have completely undone that scene. I remember sitting in the cinema and I'm like, wait a second, okay, they've already introduced Vader here. He's talking to Krennic on Mustafar. Maybe they introduce him again. And then wait, this is happening. I was like, wait a second, now this is building up to the very start of, what's it called? A New Hope? And then there's Vader in the hallway, that hallway fight. Wow. Then a complete sort of 180 to that. The complete opposite is this guy over here. Toshiro Mifune in Yojimbo, directed by Akira Kurosawa. If you watch, there are actually a couple of trailers for that movie, but there is one trailer in particular in which it's Mr. Mifune himself and, oh God, I hate forgetting names, but the antagonist, who is also a very well-known Japanese actor, I'm sorry. But you have them sort of squaring off against one another, and that's it. That's the entire trailer. It's just them going around in a circle, like sort of eyeing one another, hand on hilt, hand on his like sort of six-shooter, and sort of I think there's something going on. I think there's some voiceover in the background, and that's it. So the trailer in its entirety does not tell of a story in Yojimbo of this Ronin coming into town, pitting these rival gangs against one another and sort of like, not exactly feeding off the chaos, but sort of trying to, get rid of these two so we can clean up the town. I mean, that could have been the trailer as well, which reveals the plot. But in this particular case, no. It just has these two actors just like, circling one another in sort of like a Mexican standoff type fashion. And that's pretty much it. I mean, sure, it doesn't give away any plot points, which is fine. But I mean, like, by this time, Mifune was big enough star to sort of draw audiences into the cinema. And then considering the time as well, it was the 60s. If, for example, you caught a trailer before movies at the cinema, that was one way. Or then maybe perhaps on TV, but there was no other way. Otherwise, it was just a poster on your way to work or something like that. You'd see it out there, maybe on billboards or on walls. But that was the only means of sort of marketing your movie. Unlike now where you have social media and all of that stuff. So I think there's this fine line, of course. There needs to be a balance found. But the way that movies are being marketed right now, and there are so many examples. I mean, even recently, I think there was that Disney Pixar movie, Elio. And you had critics denouncing the marketing like, oh my God, this movie is so much better. I haven't seen it yet, but according to them, the movie is so much better than the marketing allowed for, Big Trouble in Little China, which is one of my favorites, a John Carpenter movie starring Kurt Russell. Again, that movie was poised to be a massive hit. But for some reason or the other, the marketing department completely dropped the ball on the movie itself, failed to market it properly, and a movie that critics were, sort of just loved, ended up being a minor movie in this director's oeuvre. And though a cult classic now, it didn't do what it was supposed to do. Like it wasn't a hit. Which is a shame because it is a fantastic movie. And a movie that I don't think is ever going to be replicated. I mean, a chop suey movie like that. So, yeah, I mean, I'm going to stick to my guns and just not watch trailers in the hopes that at some point in the future, Hollywood's going to learn and we're just going to have less of these reveals.